Welcome to Stories for Sleep, a place where stories are not only heard, but gently felt. In today's video, we will explore some of the most soothing truths about gemstones, crystals formed over millions of years within the heart of the earth, carrying a quiet beauty and a deep, almost timeless sense of presence. Through the lens of Carl Gustav Jung, human beings are naturally drawn to ancient symbols, and gemstones in a way are the Earth's memories crystallized. As you listen to this story, you may begin to feel your mind slowing down, as if touching an ancient, peaceful rhythm. If you enjoy gentle journeys like this, don't forget to subscribe, so we can continue stepping together into deeper sleep, night after night. As night settles, when sounds begin to soften, when the light becomes more gentle, many of us come to recognize something familiar. The body feels tired, yet the mind is not ready to rest. You lie there, eyes closed, but thoughts continue to drift. Sensations remain. And sometimes you may wonder, why does something as natural as sleep become so difficult? Perhaps it is because we often forget that our body is not a simple machine. It is a living, intricate system, always remembering, always responding, always trying to protect you, even when you are not aware of it. From Jung's perspective, there are parts within us that operate beyond consciousness, deeper layers where emotions, memories, and experiences quietly shape how we feel safe and how we let go. In this video, you will not only hear scientific facts about health, you will slowly discover something deeper, that every heartbeat, every breath, every small habit is contributing to the state you feel right now. And sometimes, simply understanding your body a little more means you no longer need to try to sleep. Let this be a gentle journey where nothing needs to be remembered, nothing needs to be analyzed. Just listen and allow each idea to pass slowly, like soft waves. And perhaps, as you listen, your body is already beginning to relax, and sleep may come more naturally than you expect. The body, a living, marvelous system. As the night deepens and you begin to feel each breath more clearly, this may be a quiet moment to remember something we often overlook in the rush of life. Your body is not simply you. It is a living world, a complex yet harmonious system, working silently every second to keep you alive. Imagine, within you right now, there is no true stillness. Your heart continues to beat steadily without needing a reminder. Your lungs open and close like gentle waves. Billions of cells communicate, exchanging information, adjusting, adapting, like an orchestra that never stops playing. There is no single conductor, yet everything moves in astonishing harmony. According to Carl Gustav Jung, within each person exists an order deeper than consciousness. A part of us knows how to balance, how to adjust, without needing direct control from thought, and the body is perhaps the clearest expression of that unconscious order. It does not need you to understand everything, but it always knows how to keep you alive. Health, then, is not a fixed state. It is not merely the absence of illness. It is a flow, a continuous process of adaptation and restoration. When you do not sleep enough, the body compensates. When you are stressed, it adjusts hormones, heartbeat, breathing. When you rest, it begins to repair what you may not even notice. And what is interesting is, all of these complex processes are influenced by very small things. A short walk, a simple meal, an earlier night of sleep. These seemingly insignificant choices are like small musical notes, shaping the overall symphony of your body. You may not notice the changes immediately, but your body does. It remembers, it adjusts, it accumulates, and over time, small changes become meaningful differences. This is also how the mind works. We often look for big transformations, clear turning points, but in truth, Most of what shapes our lives comes from what we repeat each day, quietly, and perhaps, as you lie here in the stillness of night, you may begin to feel something very gentle. You do not need to control everything. You do not need to understand every complex process within your body, because it already knows what to do. It knows how to keep your heartbeat steady, even when you are not paying attention. It knows how to heal small wounds while you sleep. It knows how to adapt through each day you live. And when you realize this, a light feeling may arise, a sense that you are not alone within your own body, that there is a part of you, always working for you, always trying to keep you in balance, always guiding you back to stability. Perhaps this is what Jung meant when he spoke of wholeness, not perfection, but the ability to self-regulate, to heal, and to return. And in this moment, there is nothing more you need to do. Just lie there, feel your breath, feel your heartbeat, and know that within you, there is an orchestra playing softly, steadily, slowly, and gently. And as you continue listening, you may begin to notice something even deeper, that this body is not only a physical system, but also a quiet form of intelligence, an intelligence without words, without thoughts, yet present in every small response. When you touch something hot, you pull your hand away before thinking. When you feel tired, the body signals you to rest. When you feel sadness, your chest may grow heavier, your breath slower. These are not random. They are how your body speaks. But in modern life, we often learn to ignore these signals. We continue when the body wants to stop. We tense when the body needs to soften. And slowly, we lose connection with the very system that sustains us. Perhaps sleep becomes difficult, not because the body has forgotten how to sleep, but because we have forgotten how to listen. And tonight, this may be a small opportunity to return. No need for great change. No need to understand everything. Just listen. Listen to the breath moving in and out. Listen to the heartbeat, however faint. Listen to your own presence within this body. And as you remain in this quiet listening, you may notice something subtle. The body does not only respond to what you do, but also to how you feel about yourself. When you are tense, the body becomes tense with you. Your shoulders lift slightly, your jaw tightens, your heart beats a little faster, as if preparing for something that has not yet happened. But when you feel safe, everything begins to change. Your breath deepens. Your body feels a little heavier, as if being gently held. And this state does not need to be created in any complicated way. It has always been there, as a natural possibility of the body. According to Carl Gustav Jung, we are guided not only by consciousness, but also by deeper layers, where a natural balance exists, a movement toward wholeness. And the body is the closest doorway to that place. Perhaps, after a long day, you have thought too much, decided too much, responded too much. But right now, in this quiet space, you no longer need to do any of that. You do not need to improve your body. You do not need to fix yourself. Because at a very deep level, your body is not wrong. It is simply adapting to everything you have lived through. And sometimes, the best thing you can do is not to change it, but to allow it to rest. Movement and everyday biochemistry. And as you begin to notice that your body can learn, can remember, and gradually adjust itself to protect you over time, perhaps a very gentle question begins to arise. If the body can learn, then each day, what is it learning from? The answer may be simpler than you think. It learns from the way you move, not from complex exercises, not from grand efforts, but from very small movements that happen each day, often without your awareness. A slow step, the act of standing up, a short flight of stairs you climb. These ordinary things are actually very clear signals that you are sending to your body. Imagine, each time you move, your body is not only using energy, it is also speaking to itself. Muscles contract, not only to create force, but to release tiny molecules, biological signals that travel throughout the body. These signals tell your system, we are active, we need energy, we need to rebalance, and almost immediately, a cascade of responses begins. Blood sugar is used more efficiently, insulin functions more effectively, regulatory systems are gently recalibrated. All of this from a small movement. Perhaps this offers a very different way of seeing movement, not as an obligation, not as something you have to do, but as a natural way to communicate with your own body. According to Carl Gustav Jung, the body is a manifestation of the unconscious. And if the body is part of the unconscious, then each movement becomes a form of expression. You are not simply moving, you are expressing your inner state, and at the same time, you are gently changing it. There are days when you feel heavy, and simply walking a little makes everything feel lighter, not because the problem disappears, but because your body has changed the way it responds. Your heartbeat shifts, your breath deepens, your internal chemistry adjusts, and from there, your feeling changes too. This is subtle, yet very powerful, because it shows that you are not completely stuck in your state. You can shift it, little by little, simply by moving. No need for much, no need for speed, no need for perfection. Just begin. And perhaps this is one of the gentlest truths that science offers. Your body responds to what you do immediately. No need to wait for months, no need for dramatic change. With just one step, your body has already begun to shift. And in a deeper sense, this reflects a familiar principle in Jungian psychology. Carl Gustav Jung once wrote, "You are what you do, not what you say you'll do. It is not your intentions, but what you actually do, repeated each day, that shapes you." And your body understands this very clearly. It does not listen to your plans. It does not wait for your big goals. It simply responds to small actions happening in the present moment. And little by little, it changes. You may not notice right away, but your body does. It records each step, each time you stand instead of remaining still, each moment you choose to move, even gently, and all of these are accumulated. Just as the immune system learns through exposure, your body learns through movement. And over time, these small changes become a new state. A state where you feel lighter, more stable, more balanced. And when your body is in that state, sleep becomes easier. Because sleep does not depend only on your desire to sleep, but also on your biological state. A body that has been gently moved, regulated, and consistently communicated with will more easily enter rest, without force, without effort, just a natural transition. And perhaps, as you lie here, listening to these words, you do not need to get up, you do not need to do anything more, but you may remember that throughout the day, each small movement has been shaping something within you, something very real, very biological, and very gentle. And tomorrow, you do not need to change everything. Just take one more step. Just move a little more and allow your body to do the rest, because it already knows how. It has always known. And as we continue this journey, you may begin to notice that not only movement, but sleep itself is more active than you once thought. A process quietly recreating you each night. You may begin to sense something even more subtle. That movement does not only change your body in the moment, but leaves behind a long, gentle echo afterward, like walking under soft sunlight. It is not only the step that exists, but the feeling that remains: warmth, circulation, a slow rhythm, continuing. Your body remembers that state. It remembers the feeling of being used, of being active, of being alive. And at the end of the day, when you lie down, your body does not only carry fatigue, it also carries a very important signal that today you have moved, that energy has been used, that cycles have been completed, and from there, another state begins to emerge, the state of enough. When the body feels that its work is done, it no longer needs to remain alert. It begins to rest. Perhaps you have experienced this before, on days when you moved gently, walked, went outside, and at night, sleep came more easily. Not because you tried harder to sleep, but because your body was ready. This is important, because it shows that sleep is not a switch you turn on, but the result of a process that unfolds throughout the day, and movement is part of that process. A very natural part, very simple, yet often overlooked. In a way, every step you take during the day is rewriting how you will sleep at night, not through willpower, but through biology. And this brings a very gentle feeling that you do not need to control sleep directly. You only need to live your day with a little more balance, and your body will carry you the rest of the way. This is also close to how Carl Gustav Jung understood wholeness. He wrote, "Wholeness is not achieved by cutting off a portion of one's being, but by integration of the contraries, not by removing something, but by allowing different parts to work together in harmony." In this case, movement and rest are not opposites. They complete each other. You move, so the body can rest. You act, so the body can soften. And when these are balanced, a very natural state appears. A state where you no longer need to try to sleep. You simply drift into it. And right now, as you lie still, no longer needing to move, you may begin to feel a very subtle difference, a slight heaviness in the body, a slowing of the breath, as if all the movements of today are gently settling, making space for rest, very slowly, very naturally. And as we continue, you may begin to discover something even deeper, that sleep is not only the result of what you do, but a process quietly recreating you each night in ways you may have never truly noticed. Sleep, the architect of tomorrow, as you begin to see how each small movement during the day quietly shapes your body at night. Perhaps we are moving closer to something important, something often misunderstood. Sleep is not emptiness. It is not when nothing happens. On the contrary, it is when everything begins. When you close your eyes and the outer world fades, your body does not shut down. It shifts into a different mode. A mode that, if you could see it, might feel like a quiet kind of wonder. The brain begins to organize information. Memories from the day are sorted, stored, or gently released. Neural connections are strengthened. Unnecessary ones are cleared away, like a room being tidied, softly, slowly, and not only the brain. Your body also begins to work differently. Hormones shift, heart rate slows, body temperature drops, a state designed not for activity, but for restoration. Perhaps this is why, when you lack sleep, everything feels more difficult. Not just tiredness. You may notice feeling hungrier, eating more, finding it harder to stop. Not because you are weaker, but because your body has not been reset. Hormones that regulate hunger, such as ghrelin and leptin, become imbalanced. The brain becomes more sensitive to reward, yet less able to regulate restraint. And from there, small choices become harder. But seen gently, This is not a problem. It is a signal, a quiet reminder from your body that it needs rest, that it needs time to reset itself. According to Carl Gustav Jung, the dream is the small hidden door in the deepest and most intimate sanctum of the soul, and sleep is that doorway, a space where you do not need control, do not need effort, yet everything is still unfolding, precisely, purposefully. What you experience during the day does not disappear when you sleep. It is processed, integrated, translated into a deeper form of understanding without needing thought. And perhaps this is what makes sleep so special. It does not only help you rest, it helps you become slightly different the next day, more stable, more balanced, more clear. But this only happens when your body is allowed to enter that state fully. And to do that, perhaps, you do not need to try to sleep. You only need to allow yourself to enter, just as you are doing now, not controlling the breath, not forcing the body to relax, simply being here and allowing everything to unfold. Because, at a very deep level, your body already knows how to sleep. It has done so thousands of times, long before you ever thought about it. And when you stop interfering, stop trying, something very natural begins to return. A slow rhythm, a gentle letting go, as if your body is saying, now we can rest. And when you allow that, sleep is no longer a task, but becomes a process, a quiet process, recreating you, little by little, in this soft darkness. And as we continue, you may begin to notice that not only sleep, but also your states of tension and relaxation deeply influence how your body heals in ways you may not have fully noticed. And perhaps, right here, another doorway begins to open, not into sleep, but into the state before it. The state where your body decides whether to allow you into deep rest or to keep you gently alert. Because before sleep, your body asks a simple question: is it safe now? If the answer is yes, everything begins to soften. The heart slows, the breath deepens, the muscles release, and you do not need to do anything. Sleep will come. But if the answer is not yet, no matter how long you lie still, no matter how much you try to relax, some part of you will remain awake, not against you, but for you, to protect you. This is how the nervous system works. It does not care whether you want to sleep. It cares whether you feel safe. And this sense of safety does not always come from outside. It comes from within, from memories, from experiences your body has stored. There are moments when you are in a quiet room, nothing threatening, yet inside, your body is still tense, the heart slightly faster, the breath slightly shallow, a feeling hard to name, but enough to keep you not fully at rest. According to Carl Gustav Jung, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. And sometimes, your sleep is shaped by these unseen layers, not because you are doing something wrong, but because your body is still holding something, a memory not yet released, an emotion not yet named, and in the quiet of the night, these become more visible. But instead of trying to remove them, perhaps you only need to do something very gentle. Allow the feeling to be there without needing to fix it immediately. Allow your body to be as it is, because within that allowance, something subtle begins to happen. Your nervous system realizes there is nothing to fight. And when there is nothing to fight, it begins to let go, slowly, very slowly, like a hand, gradually opening, not because it is forced, but because it no longer needs to hold. And in that moment, between waking and sleep, you may feel a very special space, a space without tension, without effort, only presence. And from there, sleep arrives, quietly, gently, as if it had always been there, waiting for you to be ready. So if you are still awake, it does not mean you are failing. Perhaps your body simply needs a little more time to feel safe enough. And you do not need to do anything more. Just remain here, in this quiet, listening, very softly, feeling, without judgment. And gradually, you may notice your body is not resisting sleep. It is simply waiting for one simple signal that everything is okay. And when that signal appears, even very gently, a soft wave will move through you, carrying you into a deeper, quieter space where no questions remain, only rest. And from that rest, your body will continue its quiet work of healing, preparing for a new day, one you do not yet need to think about. Stress, relaxation, and healing. As sleep has been touched at a deeper level, as your body begins to relearn how to soften, another quiet question may arise. Why is it that on some days you feel exhausted, even without doing anything physically demanding? Why is it that small wounds take so long to heal? And why is it that sometimes your own mind becomes the most tense place of all? The answer does not lie in a single moment, but in a prolonged state, a state we call stress. But if we look more closely, stress is not an enemy. It was once a brilliant survival mechanism. When our ancestors faced danger, the body immediately activated the fight or flight response. The heart beat faster. Blood moved toward the muscles. Digestion paused. All resources were directed toward one goal: survival. In that moment, stress was a form of protection. But the challenge of the modern world is not short-term stress, but prolonged stress. A tension without a clear ending. Not a predator, but unanswered emails, unfinished work, unresolved thoughts. Your body does not distinguish clearly between physical danger and psychological threat. And so, it responds in the same way. Day after day, your nervous system remains in a state of alertness, a state where the body is not fully allowed to rest. And when this continues, subtle things begin to happen. Wounds heal more slowly because the body understands this is not the time to repair. This is the time to survive. The immune system shifts its behavior. Low-level inflammation begins to appear, not as a sharp reaction, but as a quiet, persistent flame. You may not clearly feel it, but your body does. It carries a deep fatigue, not in the muscles, but within its regulatory systems. According to Carl Gustav Jung, we are not only shaped by what happens to us, but by how we experience and hold those things within. He wrote, "What you resist persists." And perhaps this is one of the most important keys. Because when you constantly resist stress, trying to eliminate it, your body interprets that as another form of tension, a subtle loop that is not easy to notice. But there is another way, not to resist, but to shift state, from alertness to safety. This is where true relaxation begins, not by forcing yourself to be calm, but by allowing your body to recognize that now it is okay. When this happens, the nervous system begins to move into a rest and heal state. The heart slows, the breath deepens, the muscles soften, but more importantly, healing processes begin to activate. Cells repair damage, the immune system recalibrates, inflammation begins to ease, the body returns to its original function, restoration. And interestingly, this relaxation does not. You need to be perfect. You do not need a completely quiet environment. You do not need a life without pressure. You only need small moments where your body feels safe. It could be a deep breath, a pause, a gentle piece of music, or simply a moment where you stop trying to control everything. And within those small moments, something very large begins to change. The nervous system relearns how to let go, not all at once, but little by little. Just as stress accumulates over time, so does healing. It does not arrive in a single magical moment, but in gentle repetitions, where you allow yourself to stop holding on. According to Carl Gustav Jung, healing is not about removing darkness, but about understanding and integrating it. He said, "I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become." And perhaps, in the language of the body, this can be felt like this. You are not the stress you have experienced. You are the way you allow your body to return to balance, slowly, gently, without force. So, if you feel tired, if your body does not feel fully at ease, it does not mean something is wrong. Perhaps your body is simply waiting for a very simple signal that you are ready to stop fighting. And when that signal appears, even in the smallest way, a quiet process of healing begins. Not loudly, not urgently, but deeply real. And from that healing, another doorway slowly opens. A doorway into a very different kind of world, not outside, but within you. A world where trillions of tiny living beings are quietly existing, influencing your emotions, your immunity, and even how you experience life. As you begin to understand that your body does not, you need you to be strong all the time, but only to know when to soften. A very subtle shift begins. You may not notice it immediately, but your body does. Small signals begin to change. Sleep comes a little easier. The breath becomes a little deeper. The heart no longer rushes as before. These changes are small, but if you listen long enough, you may realize your body has always known how to return to balance. Not through force, but through permission. Permission to rest. Permission to be imperfect. Permission to not control everything. And within that permission, an ancient intelligence begins to awaken. An intelligence not in thought, but within each cell. An intelligence that existed long before stress, long before worry. The intelligence of life itself. And what is remarkable is, this intelligence is not only within you, but also within the trillions of tiny organisms living with you right now. The microbiome and the gut, the inner world. As you begin to feel that your body is not just a machine to be fixed, but a system that knows how to regulate itself, a gentle question may arise. What is truly living inside you? Not as a metaphor, but in a very real sense. Because deep within your body, there is not only your own cells, there are trillions of microorganisms quietly existing. They live in you, with you, and in a way, they are part of you. The gut microbiome, a tiny world, yet one that profoundly influences your life. They have no faces, no voices, no consciousness, as we usually understand, and yet they participate in everything. How you digest food, how your body responds to illness, how your immune system learns, even how you feel. It may sound surprising, but your emotions are not always entirely your own. Some research suggests that the microbiome can influence mood, anxiety, levels of stress, as if, within you, there is a quiet dialogue between you and life forms you never see. Carl Gustav Jung once wrote, "In each of us, there is another whom we do not know." Perhaps this is true, not only psychologically, but also biologically, because that other is not only the unconscious, but also life itself. The microbiome does not only help you live, it helps. You adapt. It learns from your environment. It changes with what you eat. It responds to how you live each day. Within just a few days, your diet can reshape this entire ecosystem, as if each small choice you make is rewriting a living world. What you eat does not only nourish you, it nourishes the world within you, and that world responds in return. If you support it with balance, it supports you. If you neglect it, it changes in its own way. This is not control, but relationship, an ancient relationship between human beings and the smallest forms of life. In a way, you are not a single individual. You are a living ecosystem, a small forest where each tiny organism plays a role. And like any ecosystem, it needs balance. Not perfection, only balance. When that balance is disturbed, your body sends signals, sometimes fatigue, sometimes discomfort, sometimes a subtle unease without clear reason. But when balance is restored, everything shifts gently. No dramatic moment, just a little more ease, a little deeper sleep, a little more peace. And sometimes that is enough. Carl Gustav Jung also said the least of things with a meaning is worth more in life than the greatest of things without it. Perhaps these smallest living beings are among the least of things, yet carry profound meaning. They remind us that life is not isolated, but interconnected, a life woven from many lives. And when you begin to listen to your body, not as something to control, but as an ecosystem to care for, a different feeling begins to emerge. No longer fighting the body, but cooperating with it. No longer fixing, but nurturing. And from there, another gentle question appears. If the body is an ecosystem, and the microbiome is part of it, then who is the one experiencing all of this? Who is the one feeling, interpreting, giving meaning to these inner signals? The answer lies in a familiar place, yet one filled with mystery. The brain, not only processing information, but creating the experience of you. And perhaps what you feel is not entirely reality itself, but a story your brain is quietly telling. And if you listen even more closely, you may notice something very subtle. Your body is never truly silent. It is always speaking, not in words, but in sensations. A light feeling in the stomach after eating, a quiet sense of ease, a vague discomfort when stress lingers too long. None of these are random. They are how your inner ecosystem communicates with you. And perhaps what separates us from our bodies is not that the body is silent, but that we have forgotten how to listen. In the modern world, we are used to clarity, numbers, results, diagnoses, but the body speaks in subtleties. It does not shout unless it has been ignored for too long. And the microbiome is one of its most delicate voices. It responds not only to food, but to your rhythm of life, your level of stress, even the patterns of your thoughts, as if the world within you is listening more than you realize. And then a deeper truth begins to emerge. You do not only influence your body also influences you. A circle, a continuous flow in both directions. You eat, the microbiome changes, your emotions shift, your behavior changes, and then that behavior returns to shape your body once again. This is no longer a separate body, but a living, constantly self-adjusting. Carl Gustav Jung once said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." Perhaps this is also true of the body. Every discomfort, every uneasy signal is not against you, but guiding you toward understanding, that you may need to slow down, that you may need to rest, that you may need to change something, however small. And when you begin to see your body, not as a problem to fix, but as a system to listen to, a new relationship begins to form, softer, more patient, less judgmental. You no longer force the body, you begin to walk with it. And within that companionship, something quietly reveals itself, that all signals, all sensations, all subtle changes need a place to be interpreted, a place that turns signals into experience, sensations into meaning, the body into a story. And that place is the brain, not just an organ, but a quiet storyteller, continuously shaping the world you experience. And perhaps what you feel is not raw reality, but the way your brain interprets it. And that is the next doorway we will gently step into. The brain, a center of prediction and perception. As we move from the inner world of the body into an even deeper space, a gentle question begins to appear. Who is the one experiencing all of this? Who is the one who feels hunger, feels pain, feels anxiety, or peace? The answer seems simple, the brain. But when we look a little deeper, we begin to notice. The brain does not merely receive signals from the body. It is not just a passive observer. It is a storyteller, a quiet storyteller, constantly predicting, interpreting, and creating the experience you call reality. You may think you feel pain because there is a pain signal. You feel hunger because the body needs energy, but the truth is far more subtle. The brain does not wait for signals and then react. It predicts first, based on memory, based on experience, based on what has happened before, and then it compares those predictions with incoming signals. From that comparison, an experience is formed. This means what you are feeling right now does not come only from your body, but also from your past, from memories you may no longer consciously recall. Carl Gustav Jung once wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Perhaps this also reflects how the brain works. Its predictions largely arise from the unconscious, patterns that have been repeated, experiences that have been recorded, and you are living within those predictions without always realizing it. For example, a feeling of anxiety. It may not come from the present moment, but from an old memory, an experience not fully resolved. Your brain does not clearly separate now from before. It simply recognizes this feels similar to something in the past, and so it prepares you as if it is happening again. That is why sometimes you feel tense without knowing why. You feel uneasy, even when things are fine. Not because something is wrong with you, but because your brain is trying to protect you by predicting, by preparing. And yet, the brain does not only create difficult experiences, it can also create healing. The placebo effect is a quiet and beautiful example of this. When you believe something will help you, your brain begins to change your body. Not imagined, real. Hormones shift, brain activity changes, even the immune system responds, all because of belief. This does not mean everything is only in your head. It means your brain has a profound ability to connect mind and body in deeply meaningful ways. Carl Gustav Jung also reflected a similar idea, that the reality you experience is not only the external world, but the way your mind organizes and interprets it. And when you begin to understand this, a very gentle doorway opens. You are no longer completely trapped inside your experience. You begin to see that experience can change, not by force, but by recognizing it is a story your brain is telling. And like any story, it can be rewritten, not instantly, but little by little, through what you pay attention to, through how you interpret, through how you respond to your own feelings. And as you become softer with your experience, your brain begins to change its predictions, less guarded, less tense, more gentle, as if a part of you is relearning what it means to feel safe. And when that happens, not only your mind changes, but your body changes as well. Sleep becomes deeper, breathing slows, a sense of calm becomes more familiar, and then a very subtle truth begins to emerge. Health is not only what you do in a single day, it is the small stories your brain repeats each day. Patterns, habits, small things, repeated again and again until they become your life. And this is where we continue, not in a single grand moment, but in the smallest things, repeated over time. And if you stay with this idea a little longer, you may begin to notice something very gentle. You are not only living in the world, you are living in a version of the world created by your brain, a version shaped by the memories you carry, the beliefs you have learned, the experiences you have lived. And so, two people can live in the same situation, yet experience it completely differently, not because the world is different, but because their inner stories are different. One sees danger, another sees possibility. One feels pressure, another feels challenge. And all of this does not begin outside, but within the brain's predictions. And what makes this gentle is that the brain is not fixed. It learns, it changes, it continuously updates based on what you repeat each day, each thought you hold, each emotion you nurture, each response you choose. All of these are slowly, quietly reshaping how your brain works, not quickly, but steadily. Carl Gustav Jung once wrote, "We are not what happened to us. We are what we choose to become." Perhaps, in this context, this carries a very deep meaning. You are not trapped in old predictions. You can, little by little, create new ones. Not by changing everything at once, but by changing small things. The way you respond, the way you see, the way you pause, instead of continuing tension. And when these small changes are repeated, your brain begins to learn that the world can be a little safer, that you can be a little softer, that you do not always need to be on guard. And from there, a different state begins to emerge. A quiet state, yet enough for you to feel ease, stability, peace. And then you begin to realize life is not built from big moments, but from very small things, repeated each day, small choices, small actions, small habits. Yet these small things shape how your brain predicts, how you feel, and ultimately, how you live. And that is the next doorway we step into, a place very familiar, yet often overlooked. Small habits, the compound effect. As you begin to see that, the brain does not only react, but also learns. A gentle idea begins to form your life, is not shaped by big moments, but by small things, repeated. Not a single important decision, not a perfect day, but almost invisible actions, happening each day. A step, a breath, a small choice you may not even notice. And over time, these small things begin to accumulate, like drops of water, one by one, softly, slowly, yet enough to change the entire flow. Health, in this way, is not a distant goal. It is the result of what you repeat. Every day, you walk a little. You may not feel anything immediately, but your body, remembers. You sleep a little earlier. It may not change everything at once, but your brain records it. You choose a slightly healthier meal. It may not feel dramatic, but your microbiome shifts, and all of these do not disappear. They accumulate. Carl Gustav Jung said, "You are what you do, not what you say you'll do." Perhaps this is not only true for behavior, but also for biology. You are not what you intend to do. You are what you repeat. What you do each day gradually becomes your body, your habits, your life. And what makes this gentle is this: you do not need to change everything at once. Because the power is not in intensity, it is in repetition. A small action, repeated long enough, can transform an entire system. Like a path, formed not by one step, but by thousands of steps, walking the same way. Your brain is the same. Each time you repeat an action, a neural pathway forms. Repeat it enough, that pathway becomes clearer, and then it becomes natural. You no longer need effort, you simply act. That is how habits form, and how life is built. But there is something important. Not everything you repeat supports you. A negative thought, repeated long enough, becomes a truth within you. A stress response, repeated often, becomes a default. And so, habits are not only external actions, they are also internal patterns. How you think, how you feel, how you respond to yourself. Carl Gustav Jung wrote, "What you resist not only persists, but will grow in size." When you constantly resist a feeling, you are, in a way, repeating it, and repetition strengthens it. But when you gently observe, without judgment, a new pattern begins to form, a new response, a new habit, and over time, these small changes become something larger, not loud, not sudden, but lasting. You do not need to become a perfect version of yourself. You only need to become slightly better each day. And what is interesting is, when you change one small habit, it rarely stands alone. It creates other changes. You sleep earlier, you have more energy. More energy, you move more. You move more, you feel better. A chain reaction, beginning from something small. This is the compound effect. Not one moment that changes everything, but many small changes connected together. And slowly, they create a different life. A life built not on extreme effort, but on gentle consistency. And when you begin to live this way, a different feeling appears. You are no longer pressured to get it right. You only need to continue. Continue taking small steps. Continue repeating what supports you, and trust that these small things are accumulating, even when you cannot see it. And then, a very natural question arises. If small actions can change the body, then what are the small parts inside the body doing each day? The organs, the systems, working silently, almost unnoticed. Who are they? And what are they doing for you right now? If you pause for a moment, not to do anything, but simply to observe, you may begin to realize your life is not built from what you clearly remember, but from what you do without thinking. Habits, quiet actions, repeated in silence. You brush your teeth without deciding. You reach for your phone before noticing. You respond in familiar ways, in familiar situations. All of these are pathways already formed, and over time, they become you, not the version you intend to be, but the version you repeat. And this is not meant to worry you. On the contrary, it can bring a deep sense of relief, because if life is built from small things, you do not need to change everything. You only need to change one small thing and let it repeat. Not perfectly, just consistently. Carl Gustav Jung wrote, "The creation of something new is not accomplished by the intellect, but by the play instinct." Perhaps changing habits does not need to be heavy. No force, no perfection. Just gently repeat something a little better, like a child learning to walk, not with one perfect step, but with many attempts and many returns. And then something subtle happens. You are no longer trying to live better. You begin to live that way naturally. No reminders, no great effort, just a new, familiar path. And when you look back, you will not see a single moment of change. You will simply notice that things are different, a little, but enough to feel you are more at ease. And perhaps that is how real change happens. Not loudly, not suddenly, but slowly, gently, and truly. And while you continue living, repeating your habits, each day, something else is also happening, something you rarely notice. Within you, there are quiet companions that never stop, never rest, never ask for attention. Yet they keep you alive. Every second, your heart is beating, your liver is filtering, your kidneys are balancing, your blood is carrying life throughout your body. All of this is happening right now, in silence. And perhaps it is time to listen to them, these parts of your body that have always been there, yet have never had their story told. And that is where we will gently continue. Organs, the quiet heroes. As you begin to look more closely at your small daily habits, something very subtle begins to appear, that while you are living your life, there are other parts within you, quietly sustaining that life, without needing attention, without asking for thanks, without needing to be noticed. They simply continue, every second, every moment. Your body is not a single entity. It is like a small universe, where each organ is a character, each system is a story, and all of them work together to keep you alive. Your liver, a silent organ, with an almost miraculous ability regeneration. Even when damaged, it can restore itself, as if it carries a deep memory of how to return to balance. Your kidneys filter your blood, regulate chemistry, keeping everything within you from drifting beyond the delicate limits of life. Your heart does not only pump blood, it responds to emotion. When you are anxious, it beats faster. When you are calm, it slows, as if the heart is not just a pump, but a bridge between body and feeling. Your bones are not as rigid as they seem. They are constantly renewing, constantly changing, quietly adapting to the way you live. And your blood, a continuous flow, carrying oxygen, nutrients, signals, connecting every part of you together. All of this is happening right now, even when you are not thinking about it, even while you sleep. Carl Gustav Jung once wrote, "The unconscious is not just evil by nature, it is also the source of the highest good." Perhaps the body is similar to the unconscious. It does not require you to understand it fully, yet it continues working for you, without judgment, without hesitation, without stopping. And what makes this so profound is this: you rarely notice it until something feels wrong. When the body is healthy, it becomes almost invisible. But when something falters, you begin to realize that it has always been there, always working, always keeping you alive. Perhaps one of the gentlest things you can do is not to immediately improve your body, but simply to notice it, to recognize that your body is not against you. It is trying to help you. Even when you feel tired, even when you feel stressed, it continues. And when you begin to see your body not as a problem to fix, but as a companion trying to support you, something within you begins to change. You become softer with yourself, less judgmental. You begin to cooperate instead of resist. Carl Gustav Jung said, "Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darknesses of other people." Perhaps knowing your body is also a way to become more connected with yourself, not through theory, but through feeling, through attention, through respect for what is unfolding within you. And as you begin to listen to your body, you may notice something else. Your body does not exist separate from the world. It responds to light, to air, to the people around you. It is not only inside, but also part of the outside, part of an environment, part of the world you live in. And perhaps, to understand your body more deeply, we must also look outward to what surrounds you and how it is quietly shaping you each day. And that is where we continue. If you stay with this idea a little longer, a strange, gentle feeling may arise. Not a clear thought, but a quiet realization. You have never truly been alone. Even when you are alone in a room, your body is still a community of organs, cells, biological rhythms, all existing together for you. And perhaps this carries a deep sense of comfort, that even when you feel tired, there is a part of you still trying, not giving up, not stopping, not judging you for imperfect days. Your liver still filtering, your heart still beating, your lungs still breathing, a quiet persistence that you rarely notice. And when you begin to feel this, something subtle shifts. Your body no longer feels like something you must control. It begins to feel like something supporting you, an ally, not perfect, but faithful. Carl Gustav Jung wrote, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." Perhaps your body carries a similar message. It is not defined by what has happened, but by how it continues to regenerate, to adapt, to sustain life. And this may gently change how you see yourself. You do not need to be perfect to deserve a healthy body. You only need to learn how to work with it, to listen, to respect, and sometimes simply pause and thank it. Not with loud words, but with small actions, resting when tired, eating when hungry, breathing slowly when tense. Simple things, yet ways of saying to your body, "I am here with you." And as that relationship forms, you begin to notice something deeper. Your body does not only respond to what you do, but also to where you live, the light you see each day, the air you breathe, the people you meet. All of these quietly shape how your body functions. You do not exist in isolation. You exist within an environment that is constantly speaking with your body, whether you notice it or not. And perhaps, to truly understand health, we cannot look only inward. We must widen our view into the world around you, environment and society. As you begin to realize that your body does not exist alone, another gentle doorway opens, that you do not only live within your body, but within an environment that touches you, influences you, shapes you every moment. The light you see each morning does more than help you see. It speaks to your brain. It adjusts your internal rhythm. It signals it is time to wake. And when light fades, your body begins to change, slowing down, softening, preparing for sleep. But in the modern world, light never fully disappears. Screens, artificial lighting, signals that confuse your body, so it no longer knows clearly when to rest. And sleep becomes more difficult, not because you are not trying hard enough, but because your environment is sending mixed messages. The air you breathe, the temperature around you, the sounds you hear. All of these are signals your body continuously reads. But there is another factor, more subtle, more profound, and often overlooked. People, the people around you, their presence, does not only affect your emotions, it affects your biology. Loneliness is not only a feeling, it is a biological state. It can increase inflammation, disrupt sleep, keep your body in prolonged alertness, as if your body understands being alone may be unsafe. Carl Gustav Jung wrote, "Loneliness does not come from having no people around, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to oneself." Perhaps what exhausts us most is not the absence of people, but the absence of true connection, a deep conversation, a sense of being understood, a feeling of being seen. These can soothe your nervous system. When you feel safe with others, your body feels safe too. The heart slows, the breath deepens, the muscles soften, a very different state from when you must protect yourself. And this leads to a gentle truth. Health does not exist only within you. It exists in what surrounds you, in the light you live with, in the air you breathe, in the relationships you nurture. You are not separate from your environment. You are part of it, and it is part of you. Carl Gustav Jung also said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." Perhaps relationships do not only affect you, they reflect you. They show you how you respond, what you fear, what you need. And when you begin to see these, not as problems, but as signals, a deeper understanding begins to form. You no longer only care for your body, you begin to care for your environment, choosing softer light, choosing quieter spaces, choosing more nourishing relationships. Not perfect, just a little better. And like everything else, these small changes will accumulate, slowly, creating an environment where you can breathe more easily, rest more deeply, be more fully yourself. And as you begin to see health in this way, something important becomes clear. Everything is connected. Sleep influences emotion. Emotion influences the body. The body responds to the environment. All of it is one system, a network, a continuous flow, and you are within it. And that is where we continue next, not by looking at each part separately, but by seeing the whole picture. System, thinking. As you begin to realize that the environment around you is not merely a backdrop, but a part of you, another doorway slowly opens, a doorway into deeper connection, where nothing stands alone, but everything intertwines, influences, and reflects one another in subtle ways. In that quiet space, try to imagine your body not as a collection of separate parts, but as a living system where each heartbeat, each breath, each thought is connected like notes in a slow unfolding melody. You don't sleep enough, and the next day you find yourself craving more food. You eat in a rush, and your body feels heavier. You feel tired, and your mood becomes more fragile. A very small chain, yet it spreads. And this is what we often do not notice. We tend to search for a single solution, a pill, a method, a quick fix, as if by correcting one point, the whole system would become perfect. But the body and the mind do not work that way. They are not simple machines. They are a network, an ecosystem, a continuous flow of interactions. Carl Gustav Jung once wrote, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." This idea is not only psychological, it reflects something deeper. Everything outside is always connected to the world within. In the same way, Everything you do to your body does not stop at one point. It ripples outward, like a wave. A deeper night of sleep may lead you to eat more gently. A lighter meal may quiet your mind. A short walk may change how you feel for the entire day. Nothing is separate. And when you begin to see this, you no longer feel the need to fix your entire life. You do not need to change everything at once. You only need to touch one point, one link, very small, but enough to begin. Perhaps it is going to bed 15 minutes earlier. Perhaps it is a glass of water you drink more slowly. Perhaps it is one deep breath before you react. These seemingly insignificant things are where the system begins to shift. Because systems do not change through force. They change through repetition, through small signals, but consistent ones. Carl Gustav Jung also said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." When you do not see these connections, everything may feel random. You feel tired, irritable, restless, and you call it a bad day. But when you begin to observe, you start to see everything has a cause. Not one cause, but a chain, a system. And this is not meant to create pressure. On the contrary, it brings a gentle sense of ease, that you do not need to control everything. You only need to understand, to listen, to adjust, very lightly, like someone tuning an instrument, not to change the melody, but to bring it into harmony. And when that harmony appears, your body begins to regulate itself. Your mind becomes clearer. Sleep arrives more naturally, not because you forced it, but because the whole system is ready. There is a quiet beauty in how everything is connected, a beauty you can only feel when you slow down long enough, when you stop searching for quick solutions and begin noticing small movements. And perhaps this is what we often forget, that real change does not begin with big actions. It begins with very small things, repeated within a living system. And when you understand this, you no longer feel like you are fixing yourself. You are cooperating with yourself, gently, patiently, with trust. And from this connection, another awareness begins to emerge that not every moment is important, but what repeats is, what becomes habit, what quietly shapes you each day. And that is where we continue, into something that seems very small, yet holds the power to change an entire life. Right here, in these ordinary repetitions, we begin to touch a deeper layer of change. Because, if you observe long enough, you will notice that your life is not shaped by grand moments, but by what unfolds quietly each day. A sip of water when you wake, the way you sit and exhale after a long day, a small decision to rest instead of pushing further. None of these create immediate change, but they accumulate silently, slowly, like water wearing down stone, not in a day, but over time. Carl Gustav Jung wrote, "The small matters of life often reveal the greatest truths." And perhaps, in those small things, your body is trying to speak to you, not in words, but in sensations. A slight fatigue, a gentle tension, a heaviness without a name. Not problems, but signals. Yet in a world that moves so quickly, we often ignore. We wait until everything becomes loud, clear, impossible to overlook, before we begin to listen. When in truth, your body always speaks early, very softly, very patiently. And when you begin to notice these small signals, you also begin to understand the power of small changes. You do not need to do anything dramatic. You do not need to change your entire life overnight. You only need to shift slightly, one small step, but in the right direction, because your system does not require perfection. It requires Consistency. A small action, repeated, becomes a habit. A habit, repeated, becomes part of you. And over time, you are no longer trying. You are simply living differently, more gently, more naturally, more in harmony. And perhaps this is the most important thing to carry with you, that real change is not a revolution. It is a quiet process, a subtle shift happening beneath the surface. Not loud, not rushed, but steady. And when you allow yourself to slow down enough to see this, you begin to notice everything you do each day is shaping who you are becoming. Not tomorrow, but now. Little by little, each breath, each small choice. And from here, a very gentle question appears. If small things can shape you so deeply, what might happen if you begin to notice them more? If you begin to repeat what nourishes you with gentleness and patience? Perhaps that is where true transformation begins. Not from a big decision, but from a new rhythm. A rhythm your body can trust, a rhythm your mind can rest within. And from that rhythm, we move into a deeper layer of this journey where small things, when repeated, do not only change the body, but transform how you experience life itself. Resilience. As we begin to understand that small changes quietly shape the entire system within us, a deeper realization emerges that health is not about never going off track, but about how you return each time you do. There is a common belief that to be healthy, we must always be right, always disciplined, always in control. But if you look closely, this belief itself becomes a hidden burden, because human beings are not designed to be perfect. We are designed to adapt, to drift and then adjust, to fall and then rise, to lose direction and then find our way back. And this is resilience. Not that you never feel tired, not that you never stumble, but that you can return gently, without judgment, without self-blame. Carl Gustav Jung wrote, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." Perhaps within this, there is a soft truth. You are not defined by the moments you drift, but by how you return. Imagine your body as a living system, constantly adjusting. Your heartbeat is not perfectly steady. It fluctuates. To adapt, your breath is not fixed. It changes with each moment. Even your brain is continuously updating, learning, adjusting. Everything within you is flexible. So why would you expect yourself to never falter? Perhaps true health is not walking a perfectly straight line, but always finding your way back. A single unhealthy meal does not destroy your health. A late night does not define you. A few unmotivated days do not mean failure. What matters is, do you return? Do you gently come back to what nourishes you? Or do you become stuck in guilt and give up entirely? And here, a deeper truth appears. Resilience is not only biological, it is psychological. It is how you treat yourself in imperfect moments. If every time you drift, you judge yourself, blame yourself, pressure yourself, you make it harder to return. But if you can say very softly, "It's okay, I can come back," you create a safe space for recovery to happen. Carl Gustav Jung spoke of facing oneself with honesty and compassion. Perhaps darkness is not only the hidden parts, but also the moments when you feel tired, off track, vulnerable. And when you learn to accept those parts, you also learn to return more fully. Resilience is not loud strength, it is quiet. It is the moment you go to bed earlier, after many late nights, The moment you return to a nourishing meal after losing balance. The moment you stand up, even when no one sees, no fireworks, no recognition, only you and the decision to return. And something beautiful happens each time you return. You do not come back to the same place. You return a little stronger, a little more aware, a little gentler with yourself. And over time, you begin to see health is not a fixed state. It is a process, a continuous movement between balance and imbalance, between control and release, between moving forward and coming back. And within that movement, you learn how to live, not as a perfect person, but as a real one who may drift, but always finds the rhythm again. And as you begin to accept this, something soft changes inside you. You are no longer afraid of mistakes. You no longer need absolute control. You begin to trust that whatever happens, you can return. And that trust creates a deep sense of safety, a feeling that you do not need to be perfect to deserve peace. You only need to not abandon yourself. And from here, we move into a deeper layer, where recovery is not only about returning to habits, but about listening to subtle signals within the body, signals that perhaps have been waiting for a long time. And as you begin to see health this way, not as a battle for perfection, but as a journey of returning, you may notice something very gentle to your body has never left you. Even on your most exhausted days, your most unbalanced days, your most uncertain moments, your body has continued to adjust. It does not blame you. It does not judge you. It simply continues, quietly, patiently, steadily. And perhaps this quiet patience is something you can learn from your own body, not always needing to be strong, not always needing control, but simply returning gently, again and again. And perhaps tonight, as you lie in the quiet, you do not need to change anything at all. Just listen. Listen to your body. Listen to your breath. Listen to the silence within. And maybe, within that silence, you will begin to notice that your body is not only living, but telling a story that is still unfolding, very slowly, very gently, and very quietly. Body and the unconscious, the signals you do not hear, as we gently close the thought that the body is always quietly recovering, always patiently waiting for us to return. Another doorway begins to open, a deeper, more subtle layer, where the body is not only biology, but also memory. A memory that does not live in words, not in clear thoughts, but in sensations. Perhaps you have experienced moments like this, an entirely ordinary day. Nothing seems wrong, and yet your heart suddenly beats faster. Your breath becomes shallow. A fleeting sense of unease appears, without explanation. You ask yourself why, but no clear answer comes. And in moments like these, your body is speaking another language, a language that does not belong to reason, but to the unconscious. Carl Gustav Jung wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Until you bring the unconscious into awareness, it quietly guides your life, and you may call it destiny." But what Jung suggested was not to control the unconscious, it was to listen. The body is one of the ways the unconscious expresses itself, not through clear images, not through words, but through sensation, a slight tension in your shoulders, an unusual quickening of your heartbeat, a lingering difficulty in sleep, even when you are exhausted. Sometimes, these are not reactions to the present, but echoes of the past, experiences you have lived through but have not fully digested, emotions left behind because you were too busy to feel them. The body does not forget. It stores. Not like a diary, but like a living system. Tension can be held in the muscles. Breathing can shift with old memories. The fight or flight response can be triggered, even when there is no real danger now. And so, there are times when you feel tired, without knowing why, anxious, without a clear cause, restless at night, even when your body is worn out. Not because something is wrong with you, but because a part of you is still waiting to be heard. Jung also said, "The body is the mirror of the psyche. The body reflects the soul." This means what you feel in your body is not always purely physical. It may be a story, an untold story, an unaccepted emotion, an unprocessed memory. And what is gentle about this is that the body does not tell this story loudly. It whispers, through slight tension, through quiet fatigue, through sleep that never feels quite deep. If you listen long enough, you begin to realize your body is not against you. It is trying to help you, helping you see something your mind has not yet understood. And perhaps this is one of the most gentle things we can learn. You do not need to fix yourself right away. You do not need to understand everything. You only need to stay. Stay with the feeling. Stay with your body. Stay with yourself. And when you do, something very soft begins to happen. Not a sudden change, but a softening. The body begins to release. The breath deepens. The heart slows, not because everything is resolved, but because you have stopped resisting. And in that absence of resistance, the body feels safer. And as we have seen, a sense of safety is what allows healing to begin. And from here, very naturally, we move into another layer of this journey. A layer not only of memory, but of rhythm. Because it is not only what you have experienced that shapes your body, but also how you move through time. The hours you wake, the moments you eat, the times you meet the light, all quietly adjusting an inner clock within you. And when that clock falls out of rhythm, the body does not only feel tired, it loses its natural harmony. So after listening to the stories your body carries, perhaps it is time to listen to its rhythm, a rhythm ancient, precise, and gentle. And as you begin to listen in this way, without judgment, without urgency, something subtle emerges: trust. Not blind belief, but a deep feeling that this body knows what it is doing. Each heartbeat, not just a reflex, but a rhythm refined through millions of years. Each breath, not just survival, but a bridge between inner and outer worlds. And you may begin to wonder, if the body is so intelligent, if it carries memory, if it responds to what you have lived, then perhaps it is also guiding you back toward balance. The answer is perhaps yes, but not through control, through rhythm, a natural rhythm, like the ocean rising and falling, like day turning into night, like seasons shifting without command. Your body has such a rhythm, a silent clock that shapes everything: your sleep, your energy, your mood, and even how you experience the world. And when you listen long enough, you begin to notice small signals: sleepiness arriving at the same hour, a time of day when you feel most awake, a moment when you simply want to slow down. These are not random. They are invitations to return to your natural rhythm. But in the modern world, we often miss these invitations. We stay up later, eat at irregular times, live in artificial light, and remain in a constant state of doing. Gradually, the body no longer knows when to rest, when to wake, when to relax. And then, sleep becomes difficult. Not because you do not want to sleep, but because the body no longer receives a clear signal that it is safe to let go. Carl Gustav Jung once said, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." Perhaps returning to the body is a very gentle form of awakening, not dramatic, but a quiet realization that you have always had a guiding system within you, a system that does not require force, only listening. And when you begin to listen, not with thought, but with feeling, the body begins to respond, not with words, but with ease, a softness in movement, a lightness in the chest, a deeper breath without effort. And then, very naturally, sleep begins to arrive in the same way, not as a task to complete, but as something that happens. But before sleep fully comes, there is one more thing the body seeks, something deeper than rhythm, a sense of safety, not external safety, but an inner knowing that there is nothing left to guard against, a sense of safety, the foundation of sleep, when your body begins to return to its rhythm, when each breath softens, when fatigue becomes a gentle invitation, you enter a deeper layer, a layer where techniques, habits, even how to sleep well, are no longer the center. Because here, there is something more essential than all of them, a sense of safety. Your body does not sleep simply because the lights are off. It does not sleep just because you lie down. It sleeps only when it knows there is no danger. Your nervous system has always been shaped to protect you. It asks one simple question: am I safe? If the answer is yes, the body softens, the heart slows, the breath deepens, the muscles release, and sleep comes naturally. But if the answer is no, even in a quiet room, even without visible threat, the body remains alert. Not panic, but a subtle tension, a quiet unease, without a name. You lie down, but the mind continues. The body holds a slight tightness. A part of you is not ready to let go. This is what science calls fight or flight, a survival state. And only when you enter rest and heal does the body allow true rest. But this state cannot be forced. You cannot command your body, relax now, just as you cannot force a frightened child to fall asleep instantly. What it needs is not instruction, but reassurance. And perhaps the child within you is the same. Carl Gustav Jung suggested that within each of us, there are deep, unconscious layers, primitive parts that never fully disappear. He wrote, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. Perhaps the feeling of unsafety does not always come from the outside world, but from within, from emotions not yet accepted, thoughts pushed away, parts of yourself you avoid. And when these parts remain unseen, the body keeps you alert, not to harm you, but to protect you. Yet protection also means you cannot fully let go. So deep sleep is not only biological, it is psychological, a state where you no longer need to defend yourself. You do not need to control your thoughts. You do not need to do it right. You do not need to become better. You only need to be Dime. And when that happens, something very subtle shifts. The body softens, the breath deepens, the heart slows, as if it trusts. Not trust in the world, but trust that right now you are okay. And from there, sleep is no longer something it becomes something you are allowed to enter, like a door that opens without a key, but only when you stop pushing. Perhaps what helps you sleep most is not a technique, not a habit, but a simple human feeling that you are safe, safe in your space, safe in your body, safe with yourself. And when you feel that, even slightly, your body understands. It begins to release, not quickly, not forcefully, just letting go. And then, as a natural result, you drift into Sleep, not because you tried hard enough, but because you no longer needed to try. And perhaps this is what we are all searching for, not only in sleep, but in life. A place where we do not need to defend, where we can let go, where we are allowed to rest. Tonight, as you close your eyes, you do not need to do anything more. Do not try to sleep. Do not control your thoughts. Just allow yourself to feel safe and let your body do the rest, gently, naturally, as it has always done for so long. And as you rest in that state, a very subtle feeling may arise that your body is breathing differently now, slower, deeper, as if each breath is softly telling you, it's okay, you can rest now. And in that quiet space, you may begin to notice there is nothing you need to fix right now, nothing you must resolve immediately. Thoughts may still be there, feelings may still remain, but you are no longer carried away by them. And in that moment, a space opens, a quiet space, where you are no longer the one who controls, but simply the one who experiences. Carl Gustav Jung said the pendulum of the mind oscillates between sense and nonsense, not between right and wrong. Perhaps trying to think correctly, act correctly, sleep correctly is what pulls us away from rest, because sleep is not on the side of right. It is on the side of letting go of control, letting go of analysis, letting go of the need to understand everything. And when you let go, you do not lose anything. You return to a natural state where the body knows how to sleep without being taught, to a deeper place within where you do not need to prepare or defend or stay alert, only be. And in that being, you may begin to realize sleep has never left you. It has only been waiting until you feel safe enough to return. And if there is one thing you carry from this moment, perhaps it is this: you do not need to be perfect to rest. You do not need to solve everything. You do not need a perfect day. You do not need to become someone better. You only need to allow yourself to be safe. And from there, everything else will come gently, naturally, and deeply human. And as we move through all the layers of this journey, from body to habits, to the unconscious, to rhythm, and finally to safety, what remains is not knowledge, but a feeling, a very soft feeling, that you do not need to try so hard. Health is not a distant destination. It is not a perfect version of yourself in the future. It is happening right now, in the way you breathe, in the way you listen to your body, in the way you allow yourself to rest. And if there is one thing this journey wishes to remind, it is this: you are not broken. You do not need to completely fix yourself. Your body has always been trying to balance. Your mind has always been trying to protect. Your unconscious is simply trying to be heard. Carl Gustav Jung said, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." And perhaps becoming is not about becoming someone else. It is about returning to your rhythm, returning to your body, returning to a state where you no longer need to defend. Because when you no longer defend, you can finally rest. And when you rest, the body begins to heal, quietly, without display, small changes happening in silence, a slower heartbeat, a deeper breath, an easier sleep. And slowly, everything becomes lighter, not because life becomes simpler, but because you are no longer resisting it. And perhaps this is the deepest meaning of health, not control, but harmony. Harmony with your body, harmony with your rhythm, harmony with yourself. Tonight, you do not need to do anything more. Do not try to sleep. Do not wonder if you have done it right. Just lie down. Relax your shoulders. Soften your breath. And if you can, gently say to your body, "I am safe now." And let your body do the rest, as it has always done throughout your life. And if these words have brought you even a small sense of peace, a moment of slowing down, a quiet connection with yourself, you may consider joining Stories for Sleep, because here we are not only telling stories, we are gently returning to a quiet place within. Thank you for being here and for giving this time to yourself. Wishing you a deep, soft, peaceful sleep. Good night.